Okay. Before we get started reading, I want to make a couple of corrections. Actually, again, George and I had even discussed, he said, you know, maybe we ought to, like, put this out. I said, you're going to have to, like, go through each one. So I know that there were two things that I misspoke about last week that I knew almost as soon as I misspoke them, and certainly when I saw the video the first time. Number one, the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra is the 14th Gosho in Volume 1. It is not one of the 10 major writings. What I was thinking of when I said that was on reciting the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, which is one of the 10 major writings in Volume 2. Okay, so that was one time I misspoke. The other time I misspoke was I said something about Nichikan, and I was talking about, I said sixfold secret teaching. It's a threefold secret teaching in the 6-volume writings. So I got, again, I'm riffing when I'm going really fast. Sometimes I do misspeak. I apologize for that. It's never really anything major. I catch myself the minute I watch myself. I'll start to try and note those things in advance. All right, last week we left on page 23, right? By the way, for anybody that's watching this as a video, if you follow George's YouTube page, you'll see that we're missing pages 19 to 21. That will eventually be filled in at some point in time. Yeah. All right? So if you miss those pages, you can go back once you see them posted, and they should be posted sometime relatively soon. So then, where we're going, page 20 through a revolutionary new view of religion, right? There's a delay, evidently. What?
No, you're recording already. Sorry.
I know, I'm already recording. All right, so I'm going to continue, correct? We're on page 23, right?
Yes.
A revolutionary new view of religion, correct?
Yes.
Let me start reading while you all keep eating. Finally, let's look at the revolutionary view of religion found in the Daishonen's conception of sovereign, teacher, and parent. In the true aspect of all phenomena, he writes, a common mortal is an entity of the three bodies and a true Buddha. A Buddha, such as Shakyamuni or many treasures, is a function of the three bodies and a provisional Buddha. In that case, though it is thought that Shakyamuni Buddha possesses the three virtues of sovereign, teacher, and parent for the sake of all of us living beings, it is not so. On the contrary, it is the common mortals who endow him with the three virtues. Does everybody understand what that was just saying? I'll reread that again. This is an important quote. This is a very important quote. It opened my eyes when I read it a long time ago. Finally, let's take a look at a revolutionary view of religion found in the Daishonen's conception of sovereign, teacher, and parent. In the true aspect of all phenomena, he writes, a common mortal is an entity of the three bodies. What's that mean? What's an entity of the three bodies? Who said what? What's an entity of the three bodies? Buddha, right. What are the three bodies? The Dharma body, the reward body, and the manifest body. So an entity of those three bodies would be a Buddha, correct? All right, so the common mortal is a Buddha, he says. Okay, and a true Buddha. Okay, because the Buddhahood that a common mortal expresses can only be the Buddhahood of the Buddhism of the sowing. Common mortal can't express any other kind of Buddhahood. Do you understand? Buddhism of the harvest won't take a common mortal there, will they?
No.
Okay? Buddhism of the harvest only take a common mortal into a future existence at some point in time after much practice and effort and causality, right? So we're talking about, again, a common mortal is an entity of the three bodies and a true Buddha. A true Buddha. A Buddha, such as Shakyamuni or many treasures, is a function of the three bodies and a provisional Buddha. In that case, though it is thought that Shakyamuni Buddha possesses the three virtues of sovereign, teacher, and parent for the sake of all of us living beings, that is not so. So right there, he's qualifying, that is not so. In the latter day of the law, we're not perceiving it that way. It says, on the contrary, it is the common mortals who endow him with the three virtues. According to traditional thinking, Shakyamuni was a great Buddha, possessing the three virtues for the sake of living beings. But this view is in fact incorrect. It is because people possess the Buddha nature and are endowed with the potential to manifest Buddhahood that Shakyamuni could demonstrate the virtues of sovereign, teacher, and parent. Do you understand? That's that inseparability again. Okay? Of master and disciple, or whatever you want to call it. All right? There is no separation. So let me start. According to traditional thinking, Shakyamuni was a great Buddha possessing the three virtues for the sake of the living beings, but this view is in fact incorrect. It is because people possess the Buddha nature and are endowed with the potential to manifest Buddhahood that Shakyamuni could demonstrate the virtues of sovereign, teacher, and parent for all living beings. That's why the Daishonin proclaims it is living beings who endow Shakyamuni with the three virtues. Do you understand his point, his concept? If it isn't for the sake of all the other Buddhas that follow, okay, based on the lineage of the Lotus Sutra and then the Buddhism of the sowing in the latter day, how in the world is Shakyamuni a parent or a teacher or a sovereign? He doesn't have any of those virtues in the absence of us. Do you understand? It's by virtue of us that he has those virtues. Do you understand? That's what the Daishonin is saying. It's not like Shakyamuni's up here and we're down here. It's only by virtue of this commonality that Shakyamuni, this interrelatedness, that Shakyamuni has these aspects. This is not something that makes him supernatural or separate from us or from the Daishonin. You understand? Okay, Shakyamuni is a bodhisattva, practiced the bodhisattva way. He's not the original teacher. He is not the original Buddha. He attained enlightenment at Goyaku Jintingo. He did not attain enlightenment at Kuanganjo. Do you understand? That's the difference. That's why there's a Buddhism of the harvest for the former in the middle of the day, and there's the Buddhism of the sowing for the latter day. Everybody with me? Yeah. Okay, in other words, he's saying, Shakyamuni functioned as a setup for my teaching. So he's also expressing. Do you understand? The real Buddhas are not the Shakyamuni that you read about from the 2,000-year-old scriptures, which are so out there that they're, what was the word that President Katie used last? They're abstract. Okay? Treasure tower is so big, this and that and the other. Okay? We're talking about the reality of life in the 9 worlds representing the true Buddha. That's what he's saying. All right? And the embellished Buddha, the supernatural Buddha of the Buddhism of the harvest, is a support function for the propagation and understanding of that truth of the Buddhism of the sowing, and that the common mortal is the true Buddha. Do you understand? In the absence of that truth, the other thing is fairy tale. It has no functionality. If it's not leading to the Buddhism of the sowing, the Buddhism of the harvest really doesn't have that much to offer the people in the latter day of the law. Do you understand? All right. Hence we see a radical new approach to the three virtues and to the very nature of religion. In the conventional view, sovereigns rule and reign over their subjects. Teachers instruct and educate their students, and parents give birth to and are honored by their children. Seen strictly in terms of such relationships, sovereign, teacher, and parent are authority figures. Do you understand? Thus, when the Buddha is likened to sovereign, teacher, and parent, based on that model, what will inevitably result is an authoritarian Buddhism, or a Buddhism with hierarchical separations. Yeah. Do you understand? That's what I was trying to convey. But genuine sovereigns help their subjects become happy. Genuine teachers enable their students to grow and develop. And genuine parents raise children into fine adults. Based on this model, sovereigns can manifest their power as sovereign only because their subjects have the potential to become happy. Teachers can function as teachers only because their students have the potential for wonderful development. and parents can fulfill their role as parents only because their children have the potential to grow into capable men and women. What's the whole concept between the inseparability of master and disciple? Teacher and student, however you want to say it. The inseparability, they're one and the same. There is no teacher and disciple. There are always teacher and disciple. Why is that? Without the disciple, there can be no teacher. Without the teacher, there can be no disciple. There are equivalencies. Do you understand? There are two different phases of the same thing. I've said it over and over again. All disciples are meant to become mentors. All mentors were once disciples. It's a continuity process. It's not a separate hierarchical karmic superiority or something. The worst bodhisattva is just as equal in life state as the best bodhisattva. There is no such thing as a worst bodhisattva or a best bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas of the earth are bodhisattvas of the earth. They all have different missions. None of those missions are greater or lesser than the other. All right? So, the same principle applies to Buddhism. Buddhas can be endowed with the three virtues only because living beings have the potential to attain Buddhahood. This statement by the Daishonin indicates a dramatic move away from an authoritarian religion characterized by obedient worship of Buddhas and deities and priesthoods and temples, okay, and a reliance on priestly prayers for good fortune and protection it changes into a humanistic, people-centered religion that exists for the happiness of all human beings and for all people to become equal to the Buddha, for all people to become the Buddha in reality, actual Ichinen Sensei. Everybody's with me? Going on to chapter 2, page 25. The teaching hidden in the depths of the sutra, the supreme law that opens the path to Buddhahood for all people. Everybody understands that title, right? All right. The Lotus Sutra contains, I'm going to read from a quote from the text of the Gosho. The Lotus Sutra contains two important teachings: the Dharma analysis treasury, establishment of truth precepts, Dharma characteristics, and three treatises schools have never heard even so much as the name of these teachings. I'm going to repeat that since I kind of butchered it a little bit. The Lotus Sutra contains two important teachings: the Dharma analysis treasury, establishment of truth, precepts, Dharma characteristics, and three treatises schools have never heard even so much as the name of these teachings. The flower garland and true word schools, on the other hand, have surreptitiously stolen these doctrines and made them the heart of their own teachings. The doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is found in only one place, hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu were aware of it but did not bring it forth into the light. Tiantai Chi alone embraced it and kept it ever in mind. Everybody's with me? Right, that's from the opening of the eyes, the Gosho itself. The lecture continues on the second column of page 25. The crucial importance of the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. In this passage, Nichiren Daishonin calls the fundamental law that serves as the key for the enlightenment of ordinary people the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, and states that it is found in only one place, hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Does everybody understand that? Why is that? Because that's where Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is derived from. And Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is synonymous with what I just said. Do you understand? That is the Buddhism of the sowing. It can only be divined by the original teacher. This 3,000 realms doctrine, implicit, again, not on the surface, but hidden in the depths, implicit in the lifespan of the Thus Come One, the 16th chapter, could be called the very heart of the Lotus Sutra, which was expounded to enable all people to reveal their Buddhahood. Which was expounded to enable all people to reveal their Buddhahood, because it led and gave way to the Buddhism of the sowing and Nichiren's teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Do you understand? If it weren't hidden, that's why it led the way. If it weren't hidden there, it couldn't have been discovered and brought forth by the original teacher Nichiren. Do you understand? In the latter day of the law. Everybody understands that significance. It's there because of that, because of what was to follow, not because of the significance of how it was originally perceived. In short, it represents the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Does everybody understand what that significance is? Okay, what's the significance of the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life? The mutual possession of the 10 worlds. What's the significance of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds? That no matter what of the 9 worlds that we exist in this common mortal existence in the Sahe world, Buddhahood is there if we'll only reveal it, if we'll only understand that it's there and bring it forth. It's hidden in the depths. Okay, do you understand?
Yes.
All right. Viewed as the supreme teaching for ordinary people, pardon me. This 3,000 realms doctrine implicit in the lifespan chapter of the Thus Come One of the 16th chapter could be called the very heart of the Lotus Sutra, which was expounded to enable all people to reveal their Buddhahood. In short, it represents the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, viewed as the supreme teaching for ordinary people to attain Buddhahood. By explicitly expounding the Buddha teaching, implicit in the lifespan chapter, and you understand that, right? What he just said? By saying what was hidden in a manner in which it's no longer hidden. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. All right. By explicitly expounding the Buddhist teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter, the Daishonin opened the way for fundamentally liberating people from suffering in the evil age of the latter day of the law, right? He made available to them actual Ichinen Sanzen, the practice of actual Ichinen Sanzen. Tentai had already covered the theoretical Ichinen Sanzen. Nichikan, the 26th high priest of the Nikko lineage, and we all know what we're talking about here now, right? Known as a leading restorer of Nichiren Buddhism, interpreted the word only in the above passage as indicating 3 levels. And this is the threefold secret teaching I was just talking about a minute ago. Only in the Lotus Sutra, not in any other sutra. 2, only in the lifespan chapter, in other words, only in the 16th chapter of the essential teaching, not in the theoretical teaching. And then 3, only hidden in the depths of that chapter. In other words, not available on the explicit, on the surface interpretive reading of what it says, but as expressed through the life of Nichiren in his teaching of the Buddhism of the sowing in the latter day. Everybody with me?
Yes.
All right. So, on that basis, he developed the system of comparison known as the threefold secret teaching, which can be explained as follows. First, in the context of Shakyamuni's lifetime of teachings, comparing the true teaching, the Lotus Sutra, and the provisional teachings, all preceding sutras, the 3,000 realms doctrine is found only in the Lotus Sutra, the true teaching. Specifically, it is found in the theoretical teaching, first half of the Lotus Sutra, in expedient means, the second chapter. Here, the theoretical 3,000 realms teaching is revealed. Everybody's with me, right? And you understand that, correct? All right. Second, in the context of the Lotus Sutra, comparing the essential teaching, latter half, and the theoretical teaching, first half, latter half, the last 14 chapters versus the first 14 chapters of the sutra. The doctrine is found only in the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching. Everybody understands that as well, right? That's where, Manjushri is asked, where the hell did all these people come from in the preceding chapter, the 15th chapter, emerging from the earth, right? That's when he says, hey, I didn't attain Buddhahood under the Bodhi tree. It's been numberless major world system dust particle kalpas since I attained Buddhahood. That's what they're talking about. Here, the actual 3,000 realms doctrine, explicit in the essential teaching, is revealed. Third, in the context of the lifespan chapter, comparing its implicit meaning, the meaning hidden in the depths, with its explicit meaning, the meaning on the surface of the words, the former indicating the Buddhism of the sowing, and the latter the Buddhism of the harvest. The doctrine is found only hidden in the depths or implicit in the text of the chapter, that is, in the Buddhism of the sowing. Everybody's with me, right? It's only Nichiren's teaching that allows for this. It's not Shakyamuni's teaching in actuality. All right? Here, the actual practice of 3,000 realms teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter is revealed. What is that? I'll read that sentence again. Here, the actual practice of the 3,000 realms teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter, the actual practice that's hidden in the lifespan chapter is revealed. What is that practice? Let me go back one more sentence. All right, here we go. All right. I guess that's a very long sentence. Let me read that whole paragraph. Starting from the last paragraph on page 26 in the first column. Third, in the context of the lifespan chapter, comparing its implicit meaning with its explicit meaning, the former indicates the Buddhism of the sowing and the latter the Buddhism of the harvest. The doctrine is found only in the depths or implicit in the text of the chapter, that is, in the Buddhism of the sowing. It's only found in the Buddhism of the sowing, right? Okay. Here, the actual practice of the actual 3,000 realms teaching implicit is revealed. What is that teaching? Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. All right? That's what Nichiren reveals that's hidden in the depths. How to actual Ichinen Sanzen rather than theoretically understand Ichinen Sanzen. Rather than understanding theoretically everybody's a Buddha and so am I, suddenly becoming the Buddha and perceiving all others as such to make them equal to yourself. You with me?
Yes.
In discussing the 3,000 realms teaching, there is a tendency for people to become fixated on the number 3,000. But the heart of this principle, in fact, lies in the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. As I've said a million times, that's the only part that really matters. You can get into this 10 times 10 times 10 times 3, but it really doesn't matter because it's just the fact that you're already the Buddha exactly as you are in no matter one of the 9 worlds you're living in. You can be in hell. You're still the Buddha. All right? That's the point. In discussing the 3,000 realms teaching here, there is a tendency for people to become fixated on the number 3,000. But the heart of the principle, in fact, lies in the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, that is, the 100 worlds. After referring to the teaching hidden in the depths of the above passage, Nichiren writes, the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life begins with the concept of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Begins with the concept. Do you understand what that means? It begins with the theoretical understanding. You can't jump to the actual Ichinen Sanzen without at least understanding theoretical Ichinen Sanzen. That's the ramp to allow your brain to get there. That's the part telling you over and over again you're the Buddha, and you go, okay, yeah, okay. You're the Buddha. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand. No, I understand. I am the Buddha, right? I am the Buddha. That's not actual Ichinen Sanzen. That's theoretical Ichinen Sanzen. But that's the purpose of theoretical Ichinen Sanzen, is to give you a foundational premise to get to the point where the light goes on. Oh, no shit, I am the Buddha. That's it. End of subject. Done. Now I must live accordingly. Everything that's being written about the mentor, everything that's being written about a mission for Kosen Rufu, everything that's being written about being a bodhisattva, it applies to me. Being a teacher to people, that applies to me. Everything that applies to Nichiren applies to me. Everything that applies to President Keita applies to me equally. I'm equally one of them. All right? After referring to the teaching hidden in the depths of the above passage, Nichiren writes the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life begins with the concept of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. In subsequent passages, he explains at length the principles of original cause and original effect, and the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds, stressing that they are the essential principles for the attainment of Buddhahood. Further, why are they essential? Without them, you can't do it. Further, when it comes to the mutual possession of the 10 worlds in the actual practice of the 3,000 realms teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter. Now, do you understand how he subjugated? What context he just stated that in. Further, when it comes to the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, so when it comes to the Buddhahood in reality, not in theory, in the actual practice, in the daily life practice of the 3,000 realms teaching that is now understood from the perspective of the Buddhism of the sowing, okay, the 3,000 realm, the practice of the 3,000 realms teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter, it is specifically the principles inclusion of Buddhahood in the 9 worlds and inclusion of the 9 worlds in Buddhahood that hold great importance. Why is that? Because it goes right back to what he just said to begin with in this first part here. Let me go back again. Further, when it comes to the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the actual practice of the 3,000 realms teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter, it is specifically the principles inclusion of Buddhahood in the 9 worlds and inclusion of the 9 worlds in Buddhahood that hold great importance. Do you understand? Does anybody understand? All right. Why is inclusion of Buddhahood in the worlds and in the 9 worlds and the inclusion of the 9 worlds in Buddhahood that hold great importance?
No matter what you are Buddha.
That inseparability is why you can achieve Buddhahood in your present form. Yeah. It's why your original state is actually Buddhahood. It's why you're already the Buddha, whether you realize it or not. It's the fact that the 9 worlds never exist outside of Buddhahood, and that Buddhahood never exists outside of the 9 worlds. It means that every common mortal is always a Buddha, and every Buddha is always a common mortal. Shares the life of a common mortal, shares the existence of a common mortal. That this thing called Buddhahood is the perception of the reality of the truth. And what is the truth of the reality that it's that perception that qualifies? That you are already the Buddha exactly as you are. That there's no separation between you.
One.
Right, you don't become the Buddha. The 9 worlds always contain the 10th world. The 10th world always contains the 9. Hold great importance. That is as the Daishonin indicates when he writes, Shakyamuni Buddha expounded the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, explaining that the 9 worlds have the potential for Buddhahood, and that Buddhahood retains the 9 worlds from the selection of time. The reason for focusing on this mutually inherent aspect of the 9 worlds and Buddhahood is that it lays the groundwork for the idea of ordinary people attaining enlightenment. It clarifies that the pure and limitless life force of eternal Buddhahood can function dynamically within the lives of ordinary people racked by earthly desires, karma, and suffering. Not a pure, unchallenged life without obstacles or difficulties or confusion or desires or wants that have yet to be achieved. Okay? With all those things still present in your 9 world life, the 10th world life can govern the power of your life towards actualizing all of that. Okay? They don't have to be wishes and dreams. They can be destinations that you're on a path to achieve, period. Period. Given that in the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, the lives of beings of the lower 9 worlds were depicted as impermanent, this represents a dramatic transformation of the Buddhist view of life, which is analogous to changing poison into medicine. The lifespan chapter, everybody with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
The lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra refers to Shakyamuni's original attainment of enlightenment in the remote past, Goyaku Jintingo. In this teaching, Nichiren discerned the means for attaining Buddhahood without having to discard one's body as an ordinary person of the 9 worlds. In other words, the means for actualizing the principle of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. In other words, the means for actual Ichinen Sanzen. Okay? Faith in the mystic law of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, as well as prayer and action based on that faith. Let me say that again because it's so important. Faith in the mystic law of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, as well as prayer and action based on that faith. In other words, not just believing and thinking, all I got to do is believe. That's like clicking your shoes together and saying, I want to go home from the Wizard of Oz. Okay? You have to take action. So, your faith in the absence of action is not true faith. Do you understand? Mugi Washin always involves action. It's not just a belief, a level of belief. If you really believe, then you will really do. If you do not do, then you do not really believe. It's as simple as that. It's very easy. Okay? Faith in the mystic law of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, as well as prayer and action based on that faith, are key to transforming a life state in the 9 worlds, steeped in earthly desires, karma, and suffering, into Buddhahood. The Lotus Sutra describes how Bodhisattva, never disparaging while remaining an ordinary person, could transform his karma, attain the benefit of purifying his six sense organs, and finally, attain Buddhahood as a result of dauntlessly maintaining his belief in the Buddha nature inherent in his own life and others, and continuing to treat everyone with respect based on that belief. Now, what did he just say there? You might want to take note of what he just said there. My friend, my friends. I'll read it again. Faith in the mystic law of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So you got to have faith, as well as prayer and action. Now, what does that mean? Your faith in the absence of daimoku isn't real faith. Okay? That's the prayer he's talking about. So he's talking about you got to have faith in the reality of the teaching. You got to have faith as it relates to the action of chanting daimoku, and then you've got to take action in your daily life to put yourself in a position for the prayer to be fulfilled. You can't just idly sit by and wait for magic to occur. Everybody understands that, right? You have to be the Buddha. There is no Buddhist teaching that shows a Buddha just being magic. The Buddha's always doing something. The Buddha's always teaching somebody. The Buddha's always filled with a desire for making everyone equal to themselves. The Buddha's desire isn't strictly about what the Buddha wants for the sake of his own life. Their own life. Right? Okay, so are key to transforming a life state in the 9 worlds, steeped in earthly desires, karma, and suffering, into Buddhahood. The Lotus Sutra describes how Bodhisattva, never disparaging, while remaining an ordinary person, could transform his karma, attain the benefit of purifying his 6 sense organs, and finally attain Buddhahood as a result of dauntlessly maintaining his belief in the Buddha nature inherent in his own life and others, and continuing to treat everyone with respect based on that belief. What is that saying? That's talking about the aspect of faith that never gives up. It's called Mugi Washin. There is no limit. Was there ever a point in time where never disparaging got thrown, everybody disparaged him or threw stones at him? He says, that's it. I've had it. Enough of this. If this were real, this wouldn't keep happening. If this were true, if this teaching were correct, I shouldn't have to deal with this anymore. No. It was this dauntlessness that no matter what occurred, the faith in the teaching being true is what kept him running to a safe distance. I don't want you to kick my ass, but I'm going to say it again anyhow. Okay? He didn't stop his teaching. He never stopped his practice as a bodhisattva. That's why he was able to purify his 6 sense organs. Okay, do we have to purify? Do we have to go through a process to purify our 6 sense organs? No, by chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, they're automatically purified. Okay, just like by embracing the 3 great secret laws. You know, we meet the requirements of the 3 types of learning for the sake of attaining Buddhahood. This is all contained within this Buddhism of the sowing and this beauty of nothing more than faith in the implicit teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo being all that we need to take us there. Now, you need to know all this to explain it to somebody, but you don't need any of it. Don't need to know any of it to achieve it. Faith and going forward. How much did Bodhisattva never disparaging? Did his story ever change? Did he ever get into the depths of no? It was merely to say, you guys are all cool because you're human and you will eventually become Buddhists. That was how simplistic his repetitious mission of sermon was. It wasn't to be the heaviest guy and to be some dude that everybody sought out and that had all the answers, right? So even the simplest person based on faith can achieve the highest state of life. Period. All right. And it's based on this, treat everyone with respect based on that belief. With pure, strong faith in our own Buddha nature. I'll say that again so that sinks in. With pure, strong faith in our own Buddha nature and that of others, we can break through fundamental ignorance and illusion, just like Bodhisattva never disparaging, right? Who was Bodhisattva never disparaging in a past life? I mean, in a future life? Shakyamuni, right. And whose inspiration did Nichiren glom onto as it related to his understanding of the Buddhism of the sowing? Also, Bodhisattva never disparaging. With deep, earnest prayer, we can tap the life force of Buddhahood that is one with the mystic law. And through continuing to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we can ceaselessly manifest the power of Buddhahood in our lives and set ourselves on a course toward attaining enlightenment in this lifetime. In this way, the Daishonin secured the means for actualizing the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, or actualizing Ichinen Sanzen, by establishing the actual practice of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This actual practice, encompassing faith from our hearts, prayer through our voices, and action of continuously chanting, spans the 3 categories of action: thoughts, words, and deeds. The Daishonin inscribed the Gohonzon, the embodiment of the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, inherent in his own life, as a means to help us cultivate our own faith and belief in the Buddha nature in ourselves and others, which is indiscernible to the eye. Do you understand what he's saying there? You can't see the Buddha nature with your eyes. You understand that, right? Yeah. Right. The teaching, going on page 27, the teaching hidden in the depths reveals the true intent. Next, let's consider, everybody's with me up to this point, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Next, let's consider the meaning of the teaching hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter in terms of the 3 aspects of text, principle, and intent. Through various textual passages, including as an expedient means I appear to enter nirvana, and such principles as opening the near and revealing the distant, and the Buddha's original attainment of Buddhahood in the remote past, the lifespan chapter reveals Shakyamuni's true identity as the eternal Buddha who continuously, from the beginningless past into the eternal future, leads all people in all 9 worlds, including this strife-filled Sahe world, to enlightenment. And it teaches that the Buddha's eternal life was acquired through bodhisattva practice in the remote past. This is clarified in the passage, originally I practiced the bodhisattva way. The key to attainment of Buddhahood of ordinary people lies in this bodhisattva practice in the remote past. Okay? So, what did he just say there? He says, through various textual passages, including all of this. That's what qualifies Shakyamuni from that perception. Okay? That has now been changed with the advent of the Buddhism of the sowing. Do you understand? Because what you could shoot for before the Buddhism of the sowing was only a multi-lifetime process, correct? All right, so this is clarified in the passage, originally I practiced the bodhisattva way. The key to the attainment, at the top of page 28, to the key to the attainment of Buddhahood of ordinary people lies in this bodhisattva practice in the remote past. Same as us right now, right? We're bodhisattvas of the earth. So our attainment of Buddhahood in our present form would be about our bodhisattva practice in the remote past. Everybody understands that, correct? But when people become caught up with text and principle, words, and their literal meaning, they inevitably become attached to the image of Shakyamuni as the Lord of the teachings, who reveals the aspect of original effect, that is, as a Buddha adorned with superhuman features and characteristics. They then succumb to the mistaken belief of seeking to be saved from without by this Buddha, from outside. Help me, give me, fix this. Do you understand?
Yes.
This quickly dissolves into faith characterized by an abject reliance on an absolute being. You're not the Buddha. The Buddha's outside of you. You need the Buddha to help you. Okay? Adherence to such a belief cannot attain true enlightenment, which is achieved by manifesting the world of Buddhahood from within. What is actual Ichinen Sanzen? It is the manifestation of Buddhahood in your life. All right? People that believe in something outside of themselves instead of something inside of themselves can never attain that state. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's what he's qualifying clearly. Anybody that sees the Gohonzon as something to pray to instead of something that we're a part of can never attain Buddhahood in their present form. They will always be misguided in the approach that allows for that to occur. All right? They will be lacking in the fortune to have their eyes opened. They'll read the words but not understand them. Okay? Hence, the Shakyamuni that is presented in terms of the literal meaning of the lifespan chapter reveals the power of the eternal mystic law as the Buddha of original effect. In contrast, the teaching hidden in the depths of the chapter, the Buddhism of the sowing, focuses on the ordinary person, Shakyamuni, who carried out bodhisattva practice in the remote past, just as we did, and it clearly establishes the teaching and practice of original cause for ordinary people. In other words, hidden there is the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which the original teacher will come later to reveal and bring to the surface. Do you understand? All right. In terms of its text or literal meaning, the lifespan chapter gives no explicit explanation of the enlightenment of ordinary people and the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, does it? We've all read the 16th chapter. It's not there, right? Nagarjuna had to come up with some concepts that had not been divine prior to. Nanye had to further those, and Tentai had to put them down in crystalline form, or we wouldn't even be calling this mutual possession of the 10 worlds. We wouldn't even be talking about 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Right? Those are concepts that are not explicit. Those are implicit concepts as well. Do you understand? Those are things that were implicit that Tentai brought forward. All right? I have to reread it because I don't know where I'm at. In terms of its text or literal meaning, the lifespan chapter gives no explicit explanation of the enlightenment of ordinary people and the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. But in terms of its intent, the essential teaching for ordinary people to attain enlightenment can be clearly discerned, hidden in the depths of the chapter. How are we doing on time, you guys?
10 minutes, I think.
10 more minutes? Okay, good. So we could continue skipping these gray boxes, going on 29. Maintaining the all-important religious spirit. It could be said that the enlightenment of ordinary people by means of the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds. What is that again? Everybody together? What is the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds? Yes, but what is Buddhahood? Besides Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, it is actual Ichinen Sanzen. When he's talking about the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds, he's talking mutual 10 worlds. He's talking about Ichinen Sanzen, right?
Yep.
True means actual Ichinen Sanzen. Do you get it?
Yes.
So whenever he says that, understand it's immediately. He's talking about actual Ichinen Sanzen. You've heard me use this term over and over and over again. It is Buddhahood, yes. It is what makes you really the Buddha instead of the Buddha in theory. All right? It could be said that the enlightenment of ordinary people by means of the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the true 3,000 realms teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter represents the heart of the Lotus Sutra and the essence of Buddhism, and at the same time the quintessential aim of religion. In dialogues with noted thinkers and in lectures given around the world, I have frequently emphasized the importance of the religious spirit and of the religious. The religious spirit refers to the inner spiritual power to create courage from nihilism, or nihilism? How do you say that right? Correctly. Anybody? Nihilistic? Nihilism. Hope from despair, and is a spirit to look for this spiritual power in oneself and others and in all universal phenomena. The religious spirit is to believe that the power to overcome any hardship or deadlock lies within us, and to take positive action to create new value. All religions, one might say, were born from this innate human spirit. The religious spirit of humanity could be described as the starting point and wellspring of religion. Does everybody understand what he was explaining there? Okay, let me go back real quick. In dialogues with noted thinkers and in lectures given around the world. So what's that tell you? In my conversation with very capable people that are not of the same thinking of the Buddhism of the sowing as myself, all right? I have frequently emphasized the importance of the religious spirit. So as a common denominator of our religious conversations, let's get to an essential aspect of all religions, which is this concern for others and this desire for the highest state that a human being can attain. Is salvation as a human being, right? Some religions teach that salvation occurs after death. Some teach that it's a process that can be an enhancement to your actual existence in this lifetime. Correct? Go to an ashram. These are all about, getting your thinking straight or whatever, right? Anything that's an improvement process, right? He's saying the religious spirit, he's defining it now, refers to the inner spiritual power to create courage, which is not exclusive to this Buddhism. Do you understand that?
Right.
Lots of people use different kinds of thinking to create courage from nihilism. Nihilism means everything is screwed. Everything's bad. Okay? Everything's going to not continue. All right? It's a very negative perspective. Hope from despair. This is not the only Buddhism that creates hope from despair.
Right.
Okay, I'm sure I'm going to go to heaven. That creates hope for a lot of people that are filled with the despair of their life in the world of existence, right? It is a spirit to look for the spiritual power in oneself and others and in all universal phenomena. So he's saying, open your eyes to the people. When he says open your eyes to the people, he's saying understand absolute myo instead of everything being relative myo. Even those people that don't agree with you or have a different perspective are still part of they're still included in the Gohonzon. They're still included in the Buddhism of the sowing. If you make no attempt to understand their thinking or their perceptions of how they perceive, how can you ever convince them to broaden their perspective to include causality from the perspective of the Buddhism of the sowing? You cannot. So he's saying, be a big-minded person, not a small-minded person. The Buddhism of the sowing isn't something that makes everything more strict and more restrained and more confined and more difficult to reach. It's something that expands it all because it shows how to find truth in everything, in all teachings, right? That's absolute myo. Is the truth in all teachings still fall under the simultaneity of cause and effect? Right? Yeah. So, he's saying, the religious spirit refers to the inner spiritual power to create courage from negativity, hope from despair. It is a spirit to look for this spiritual power in oneself and others and in all universal philosophy. Find the good in all things. The religious spirit is to believe that the power to overcome any hardship or deadlock lies within us. Okay? That's again, not only Buddhism perceives that. Okay? And to take positive action to create new value. All religions one might say, we're born from this innate human spirit. That's what everybody is seeking. What we already have is what everybody wants. That's what he's trying to get you to understand in this paragraph. Okay? Don't look at yourself as different and separated from everybody else in their way of thinking. We're all part of the same gang. Okay? We lead them to that. But they have that desire. They have that capacity. You have that mission. All right? The religious spirit of humanity could be described as the starting point and wellspring of religion. In other words, this common thing that's common to all religious thinking, this inner human spirit, every philosophy has its foundation in this inner human spirit. We've named it correctly. They have misnamed it. It's the same thing. Do you get it?
Oh yeah, very smart way to.
Okay? The latter day of the law, the current era, is an age when people become attached to the fleeting and ephemeral. Just like chanting for benefit. The benefit that you want, whatever you want, when you chant for that benefit, when you get that benefit, it's as worthwhile in the next moment as something in the past always is. Do you understand? In other words, everything is constantly changing, so that when you're asking for certain aspects of your life to be this way, they're only going to be that way in relationship to the ever-changing reality that life is. They're never going to become static that way. Nothing in life becomes static that way. It'll never become a permanent thing that is in the manner in which you receive it initially. It will grow, it will mature, it will change. It will either improve or it will decline. Okay? It'll become, but it won't stay the same. Nothing stays the same. The latter day of the law, the current era, in an age when people become attached to the fleeting and ephemeral, are at the mercy of greed, anger, and foolishness, only looking at this moment, not looking about the three realms, or the three existences over past, present, and future, and are divided by mistrust and hatred. Nietzsche also saw it as a time when religions would lose sight of their essential religious spirit and become alienated from people. An age when clerics would spend all their time quarreling among themselves about the superiority of their teachings, and which had in reality become ossified. What's that mean?
Something very...
Becomes like calcium. It becomes like, becomes...
Very...
That's ossification. When you never exercise, and pretty soon you can't move, that's ossification. All right? When you get old and parts of your body start to crystallize, boys, that will happen to you someday. Ossified. Oh, hey, that word makes me crazy. That hurts my feelings. I'm not. It does. Prostates ossify. Yes, they do. You wouldn't know that, but yes, they do. Nietzsche also saw it as a time when religions, what are we talking about? What are we really describing this? What's the first sentence? The latter day of the law. This time period is when all the other religions will start to become obvious that they don't have the full answer. That's why we will be able to achieve Kosa Rufu, because we do have the full answer. And the light of the gap will start to appear, where people go, but now it's the 21st century, and a lot of this shit we already know is not really why you said it is. Okay? So, Nietzsche also saw it as a time when religions would lose sight of their essential religious spirit and become alienated from people, an age when clerics would spend all their time quarreling among themselves about the superiority of their teachings, which had in reality become ossified, empty of meaning, and be ever more obsessed with doctrinal minutiae. The Great Collection Sutra describes the latter day as an age of conflict when the pure law will become obscured and lost. Nietzsche and Daishonin clearly felt that unless this fundamental religious spirit was revived, neither the people nor the age could be saved. This led him to delve. That's why he pursued this quest for an understanding that he didn't have when he started. This led him to delve into the depths of the Lotus Sutra and therein find the mutual possession of the mutual possession and the true 3,000 realms teaching, which makes it possible for us to open the world of Buddhahood in our own lives, to take it the step beyond where Tentai had taken it, And that is why he could ultimately establish the 3,000 realms doctrine implicit in the lifespan chapter as an actual practice whereby people could grasp the eternity of their own lives and through their actions bring their lives to shine with everlasting brilliance. Do you understand? They become the supreme being. They become the Buddha. In the opening passage I have cited, the Daishonin says that such Buddhist schools of his day as the Dharma Analysis Treasury, Establishment of Truth, Precepts, Dharma Characteristics, and the three treatises have never even so much as have never even so much as the name of the principle of 3,000 realms. They've never even heard of this concept in a single moment of life. And he condemns the Flower Garland and True Word schools for having surreptitiously stolen these doctrines and made them the heart of their own teaching, stolen them from Tentai and the teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Viewed in the context, and I'm going to go on to the second column, dudes. Viewed in the context of text, principle, and intent, this concept of text, principle, and intent, which I mentioned earlier, these various schools appropriated and incorporated into their own teachings merely the words of the text of the Lotus Sutra. Although they carried on as if they possessed the same principle or teaching as the sutra, they utterly failed to grasp its true intent. Their erroneous and confused interpretations of the 3,000 realms doctrine eloquently demonstrate the extent to which the existing schools of Buddhism in Nichiren's day had lost the vital religious spirit. The religious spirit is to see the eternal and absolute in human beings and to wish to make people's lives shine. Nichiren's Buddhism of sowing, based on the supreme law hidden in the depths of the Lotus Sutra, is a teaching directly founded on this religious spirit. Josei Toda, the second Soka Gakkai president, said, "When all people manifest the life state of Buddhahood, that is to say, when they reveal the supreme value of their character, there will be neither war nor hunger in the world. There will be neither illness nor poverty, enabling all people to become Buddhas, elevating the character of all people to something of supreme value. This is what it means to carry out the thus come one's work." Just as President Toda urged, we of the SGI, directly connected to Nichiren Daishonin and giving free expression to the religious spirit contained within all human beings, have spread our humanistic religion, the Buddhism of the people, throughout the world. Time?
Yeah.
Okay. We're only one page away from finishing this chapter. I'm going to continue.
Okay.
All right? The supreme teaching to be propagated in the latter day of the law. At the end of the passage I have cited, the Daishonin says that such leading Buddhist teachers as Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu of India were aware of it, the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, but not bring it forth into the light. And only the great teacher Tentai of China embraced it and kept it ever in mind. That's great concentration and insight, right? That's Makashikan. That Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu were aware of it indicates that these two teachers who carried on the lineage of correct Buddhist teaching after Shakyamuni's passing in the former day of the law understood the Lotus Sutra's ultimate principle but did not preach it. This is referred to as the concept of clearly perceiving the truth in one's heart but not teaching it to others. Nagarjuna, for example, recognized that the Lotus Sutra opened the way for people of the two vehicles which were denied the attainment of enlightenment in other sutras to become Buddhas. He praised the power of the Lotus Sutra to change poison into medicine, which was found in no other sutra, and called the Lotus Sutra the true secret teaching. This means he was aware of the Lotus Sutra's ultimate principle, which makes it possible for ordinary people of the 9 worlds to manifest the state of Buddhahood in their lives and attain enlightenment. As the Daishonin indicates, however, when he says that Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu were aware of it but did not bring it forth into the light, they did not propagate the 3,000 realms doctrine because the time had not yet arrived. I've said this many times. That's the reason They did not have that mission. They were not bodhisattvas of the earth as we are in the same function. Their mentor was not the same mentor we have.
Yes.
The statement, Tiantai Chi alone embraced it and kept it ever in mind, refers to the fact that during the middle day of the law, only Tiantai carried out the practice of contemplation of and meditation on the 3,000 realms teaching, which is the Makashikan. But Tiantai's 3,000 realms teaching was essentially limited to practice for oneself. He did not spread it widely as a teaching so that ordinary people could attain Buddhahood themselves and help others to do the same, because it was so complex and so complicated, ordinary people couldn't do it. You had to be pretty capable in terms of doctrine and discipline. All right? You had to pretty much already be a priest. It took too much time otherwise. Nichiren's real intent in talking about these correct teachers of the former and middle days of the law, who either were aware of the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life but did not bring it forth, or who embraced it and kept it ever in mind, is to implicitly, again, without saying it on the surface, indicate that he is the one who will propagate this teaching in the latter day of the law. They didn't do it because it's my job. It's my teaching. I am the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, thus come one. The second half of the opening of the eyes details the Daishonin's propagation efforts as the votary of the Lotus Sutra, as the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, thus come one. The 3,000 realms doctrine implicit in the lifespan chapter is a teaching of actual practice. Do you understand? This actual Ichinen Senzen only comes from actual faith, actual practice. The law is not something that just exists. It must be spread. And it must be spread exponentially. So what does that mean? All the disciples must become mentors. And all the disciples that become mentors must have disciples that become mentors, that have disciples that become mentors, that have disciples that become mentors. The law is not something that just exists. It must be spread. The value of the law is only revealed when we teach it to others and thereby not only awaken them to the inner brilliance of their Buddha nature, but bring our own lives to shine. That's the cool part of it, man. As well. Do you understand? That's part of the gig. It only comes out of you because you see it in others and you're trying to encourage them that it's there. It could even be said that unless spreading the law creates value, there would be no point to the law's existence. In that sense, the crucial question is, who will propagate the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life? Specifically, the doctrine implicit in the lifespan chapter. And when? If the teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter is explained without mention of this important point, it will serve no real purpose. You know why he's saying that? Because this teaching existed way before the Soka Gakkai and Tanesaburo Makaguchi and Josei Toda actualized it. That's why he's saying that. This understanding, this truth, these words, didn't just suddenly appear. But this effort, this function of the bodhisattvas of the earth giving rise and propagating the Buddhism of the sowing, as is prophesied in the Gosho, has only occurred since World War II and immediately before it. Do you understand? Yes. So let me read that again. In that sense, the crucial question is, what's the crucial question? It's how do we attain Kosen Rufu? Not how do we get more benefits. How do we attain Kosen Rufu? Because that will call for us to achieve enlightenment in our present form, and we don't have to worry about benefit at that point. All right? Who will propagate the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, specifically the doctrine implicit in the lifespan chapter, and when? Now! If the teaching implicit in the lifespan chapter is explained without mention of this important point, it will serve no real purpose. The purpose is Kosen Rufu to be attained, not for a bunch of Buddhas to appear. The person who actually propagates the true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life doctrine during the latter day of the law is one who possesses the three virtues, sovereign, teacher, and parent, in this age, and the Lord of that teaching is none other than Nichiren Daishonin. To clarify this, the Daishonin wrote this passage about the doctrine hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter. And that's the end of chapter 2 of the lecture on the opening of the eyes, and we'll continue with chapter 3 on page 33 next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.